This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Jason Bontempo, the executive chairman of Odin Metals, which is listed on the ASX, joins me today on Stockbox. Now, you've had some significant news recently, but before we get into that, with this being the first time that we're speaking, Jason, I wonder if you can just start by introducing the company and the project that you have.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Well, good evening here in Australia. So Odin Metals is a focused base metals explorer, and earlier this year it acquired a huge land package in northwest New South Wales. We call it the Koonenberry Copper Project. It essentially is an emerging district scale copper and base metals exploration package. But in addition to acquiring that project, which is almost 2,600 square kilometres in size, we also managed to acquire an smaller but advanced copper deposit called the Grasmere deposit, which slotted in nicely with our package. And what's exciting about that is that copper deposit, which is effectively the largest copper resource in northwest New South Wales, sits along a 25-kilometre, as we call it, VMS mineralisation, volcanic massive sulfide. And so there's just a JORC amount of upside based on that existing resource. As I keep telling everyone, the resource currently is JORC reported resource of 5 million tonnes at 1%. And to me, that's like we're sort of halfway there from becoming what I would consider an economic mineable resource, potentially. So not only are we early stage explorer, but we're advanced in the sense that we've got our foot on a resource within that package as well.
Okay, so you're almost at the beginning, but like you say, already halfway there, particularly with the Grasmere project there, with already having that mineral resource. So
yeah,
you've released some news last week, which is titled Outstanding EM Survey Results, where you say you've identified 58 targets. Can you give an overview of the survey carried out and why these results are indeed outstanding?
Yes. Okay. So why did we conduct survey? So essentially, Odin acquired this exploration package because it was prospective for what we see as volcanic massive sulfide mineralisation. So essentially, mostly for copper sulfides. And when you're exploring for copper and base metals, one very, very useful tool is to fly an electromagnetic survey, which we did with a helicopter. Mm-hmm. And what we're looking for is a sulfide anomalism. And that's really, it's a large package and it helps narrow down pretty quickly what areas we're going to be interested in. Now, we already knew that Grasmere, which is the resource area, and we knew about Otago in the north of the Koonenberry, and we also know that we have the Cindric Vale prospect to the west. That these are already surface prospects that were already had some work. So we had that already, but we also wanted to know what else we could look at, and that's why we ran the EM survey. As I was saying earlier, the package runs along almost 150 kilometres of the Koonenberry fault, and that fault essentially has VMS or identified VMS geology all along it. And so flying the EM survey was, as I said, the quickest way to identify targets. So now what we're doing is what's essentially so outstanding about it was the number of targets. I mean, 58 targets of anomalism that we're looking for, which, when crossed up with what we know, we will explore over the next 6 to 12 months. At the beginning, we've focused on what we know of, which is Grasmere and Cindric Vale. But what's so outstanding is not only did we identify 58 targets on them, but within that, there's some 6 high priority areas that our geophysicist consultant looks at and says, hey, this is really interesting and we need to give some attention to it immediately. So what we've got now is an exploration program where we can move very quickly into not only drilling existing known targets from previous exploration, but also now new targets that have been identified by the EM and the EM survey. And this will begin in August. We have drilling planned in August this year. It was only earlier in the week that our geologists have secured an RC drilling rig, which is really good news, and hopefully delivering some really interesting results over the next, 6 months at least. And, at the moment, junior base metals explorers in Australia anyway have been getting some really good attention and some success. Over to the west of Broken Hill, you've had Coda Minerals drilling some very large iron oxide copper gold targets. You've got Helix Resources over in the Cobar getting some very interesting results, copper results which they've been rewarded with, and including this very large package, it's 2,600 square kilometres of exploration licence, was sort of effectively hiding in another listed company called Peel Mining, who are very, very active in the Cobar region, which is to the east of us in New South Wales. And that's why when I identified it, I just thought, wow, look at this enormous, size, scale, huge amount of prospectivity for primarily VMS, volcanic massive sulfide mineralisation for copper. But also what's really interesting is it's got prospectivity for nickel, magmatic nickel as well. And that's essentially paid testament to by massive land holding to the north of us that's been applied for by S2 Resources. So they're getting a free plug here as well. But they are headed by a very successful geologist named Mark Bennett, who has had success with nickel discovery in Western Australia. And what it's done is pointed to the fact that not only have we got huge amount of prospectivity for copper, but also for nickel in our Koonenberry project along this Koonenberry fault structure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can see why you call them outstanding, and I'm just looking at the map then, the EM map from the RNS release, where you've got the kind of heat map in different colours. So how is it that I appreciate you're not a geologist, but how do you, if there's 58, how do you prioritise the first ones to go and drill?
Well, good question. So essentially what we'll do is we cross over that anomalism with other database of exploration and knowledge. There'll be also ground truthing that occurs. So what will happen now is next week our geologists will go to site, and they will as I say, ground truth, walk over these areas and look at them and see what's there and assess them again as to their prospectivity and their ranking. So there's still more work to do. No.
You also mentioned about other explorers, junior explorers in the area. Do you have any idea about how much exploration has been done in the New South Wales area?
Well, New South Wales really has been light on exploration when compared to other states in Australia. What we see is that, and interestingly enough, I went through this when I was looking at it. So I said, how could this project just be sitting here, without having received its attention after all this time? And essentially what you've had is all the focus has gone into Broken Hill because it has been so lucrative and, obviously being the founding deposit and project for BHP. And then really what's happened is there's been a lot of attention that's gone into eastern New South Wales, Lachlan Fold Belt, and then even the Cobar region. So I think it's just more of the fact that it's been frontier, and historically this area, if you go back to the 1890s into the 1910, sort of that 10, 20, when they sort of first found the outcrops of copper at Watago, which were running at 20, 30% copper, only small surface mines, but there was it was a very difficult terrain, and water and isolation. That's not the case anymore now, and really it hasn't. This area, so this southern portion of the Koonenberry, which effectively runs for maybe 400 kilometres, and we've got the majority of the southern, has been, if you look at the history of exploration in the area, it's only been postage stamp holdings by different companies. I mean, the most work I think was done probably by a major would have been the early 90s by CRA. And even then they only would have had bits and pieces. So what Peel Mining did is they managed to put together and aggregate the whole area as one large exploration project. Mm-hmm. So really this is an absolutely new, frontier in my opinion, between the Cobar region and the Broken Hill region, and we're giving it the due attention that it needs now.
Okay, good. So it sounds like you're at quite an exciting stage in the development. Then you've got some, you say, ground truthing coming up, ground reconnaissance, and then on to drilling as soon as August.
Yes, well, we already have drilling planned at Grasmere, which will be near resource, but we've got regional exploration planned. As I said, Grasmere sits. I mean, Grasmere is 5 million tonnes at around 1% copper, over semi-contiguous over about 3 kilometres. Well, that sits within 25 kilometres of what we call, as I referred to earlier, VMS geology, which remains completely underexplored. So volcanic massive sulfide deposits occur in clusters. So that's what we're going to go do, is go and explore to see how many more tonnes are potentially sitting along this strike. Then the Simbrick Vale, which has already had 2 holes, which from surface have expressed 20 metres at 0.7 copper. And then there's another hole 800 metres along strike. Our EM survey is lighting up or showing good anomalism in the area. So when you combine it all, that's definitely a target. And then there's the north at Watago, which we still have to ground truth the EM survey. So, the targets will evolve, but we know exactly where we're going to go first, and that's why we can commence in August. And you've got every chance of further discovery. And as I say, it's not like there's completely green or grassroots or greenfields. There's an existing VMS copper deposit there, or copper resource. We just got to we've got to do some more work. Okay.
Well, I'll leave you to get on with the work, and hopefully we can catch up in a few months' time as that work is progressing. But for now, Jason Bontempo, the Executive Chairman of Odin Metals, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.